is big enough. Oh, whoops. So I was working on this checkpoint issue, which I still am not sure is an actual issue. But we'll see. We'll see what the deal is. Okay, so we have a bunch of checkpoints here.
From Jono's show last week, Map Facts and Spectrum. On the way, Honor, John Monkman, Digital Drift, Colin and Sultan and Shepherd. But next
is group therapy.
Group therapy with Above and Beyond. Record of the week. Record of the week.
After a decade of friendship, Ilan Bluestone and Artie are teaming up for the first time for the next single to be taken from Ilan's third album, Ignite. Featuring the wonderful voice of Hearts, this is the epic Paradise.
Group therapy with Above and Beyond. Record of the week.
Like the wind, I'm all around. I've touched your skin, whispered sounds. You see my face every night.
What did they actually change?
I say
Protocol checkpoints. So I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pop back up to main. Don't know if that's going to apply cleanly. Okay. There's more than one failure. What else failed? So looking through this test case, alright, so we're on main. Log contents before cleanup. Log contents after cleanup. They're the same. They're the same log contents. Wait. Okay. So it is issued. Which one was this?
Group therapy with Above and Beyond.
That.
Record of the week.
This one, I think. Okay, so their test cleanup code is not working. Or it's not my test case of their test cleanup code should fail. So we our cleanup, we have no checkpoint. After our cleanup, we have no checkpoint. That's expected. I am not reproducing this code, or this bug. Well, we time traveled to version 5, in theory. What happens if I clean up before? I mean, it still fails.
This is group therapy.
That's certainly an interesting failure. Oh no, I need to caffeinate. I told Steve the other day, I don't know that I actually understand the failure here. Let's look at this code. So this was their reproduction case. Pull this over so I can see it. So this is the reproduction case. We create the checkpoint, print it, go back. Like their reproduction case is not working. Create the checkpoint. Unless, like, this is... Okay. We're gonna have to just say we can. Let's go on to something else. So Florian created an interesting looking pull request. So let's go look at that. Start. So it's 3 So this is. No, I screwed up my buffer. Alright. This is Florian's port because Florian is an old-timey contributor. Insert 2, which is cool for DataFusion. This is closing a good bug. We've got some test coverage added. Great. Yeah. Let's see what's inside. Session data from session.
Honor with Kahithal. Honor will be one of our guests on the Bigger Than All of Us North American Amphitheatre Tour, kicking off in a month's time. Head to biggerthanallofus.com for all the info and tickets. Sultan and Shepherd will be joining us for our Denver show.
I see
New music
this.
from them coming up in the next 30 minutes. But before that, another This Never Happened mainstay. This is Paris's remix
Above and
of Will
beyond, you
Clark
need to
and
quiet
Blythe,
down a little bit.
You Alone.
Let's quiet you down. You can be quiet. This is really interesting. A pattern that we see in DataFusion and Arrow a lot. This downcast ref. I actually don't know if this is. I don't understand with Rust how this is safe. Like why this doesn't need an unsafe. Like maybe downcast ref is actually unsafe. I don't know that it is, but data sync images data sync exactly how to insert operation while running streams of record batches to Delta. Seems reasonable. Async tree implementation. This looks in. Is this in its own file? I forgot to look at that. Oh no, the table provider. It's funny to me that Florian added this up towards the top of table provider because that file is kind of big. So let's go ahead and open up table provider. I find it helps to enable DataFusion as a default feature for Rust Analyzer whenever I jump into here. Because it takes a little while. Look at this linking in BTOP over here. This is... Oof. So this is 1,200 lines, which is why it takes forever for Rust Analyzer to do anything with it, and for my syntax highlighting to show up, and for all sorts of things. Rust Analyzer just doing her best over there. Okay. I don't know why he put this in the same file, but he did. We're still linking. Okay, so we have unused variable session states. Oh, interesting. Why doesn't the data sync? Kind of with most changes like this, I'm more inclined to merge first and ask questions later, because we're not about to release. So, better to get the change in. Oh no. Right all. This is kind of looking and smelling like another right implementation. We're creating actions here, which has me a little worried. Anywhere where we're creating actions worries me that we've got drift in behavior in our writer. Do our test run. We're working on it. Beep boop boop beep boop. Actually noticing that my screen capture here is getting clipped a little bit. cursor disappears. Okay. I'm okay with that getting clipped over there. But back to the diff. So then we add an insert to somewhere. And then test. I'm actually surprised this is a pretty simple looking change. These test cases are a little lengthy, but I think I can refactor this code later. So I'm like, the reason why I am nonplussed about what looks to me like a redundant implementation of some of our writes, we do have Delta Writer here, which is good, but there is this file actions code that has me a little bit concerned that we might have some deviation on more advanced features like schema evolution or something along those lines. It is using the writer, so that's good. So I think that will give us schema evolution. The removes. Okay. You know what? Let's look at the checks. I think. Yeah. Well, our checks are good. I actually think this is review. Merge it. All right, one down. Rebase and delete that branch. Let's go. Yeah, let's just blow away these changes. All right, one down. See what I've got assigned to me. I don't think this DataFusion upgrade, which Andrew has been working on, that I made comments on, that I'm skipping for now. Make it your exception, blah blah blah. Okay. Let's look at some issues. Allow configuring session config and optimize. That's a simple one, if I recall correctly. Let's just knock this out. 3751. Source operations optimize. So basically the issue that they have is, that they suggested, is we do this default session config here in optimize, which if you are a DataFusion user, is probably not what you want. So what we want there really is a This is in, what function is this in? Oh, this is in the new. That's a little annoying. This is going to be an API break. Because whenever you change your APIs, you got a Semver change. So where do we do Z order? Exec context. New. Here. So where can we create this pull through? I think it's gonna be, wouldn't like to read it from our question is, how do we expose this in the API? Because a lot of users of Optimize and things like that, they're going to be coming through this Delta Ops builder. You know, we're going to have them, they'll do like Delta Ops, Optimize, which is going to give them a builder, and that's that Optimize builder here. Where's that Optimize builder? So that kind of means we've got to add an optional into this. Oh, look at these undocumented members here. Okay, so that's easy enough. The nice thing about option in Rust is this is just gonna exist on the struct. We don't need to really do anything. Hopefully when Optimize Builder is created, oh no, we don't have a default. Damn, that's annoying. That means I've got to add it here. So session config, none. Some more boilerplate code. Tedious. Actually, I should make a test for this first. So let's do not reference be itself. Builder pattern is very helpful. I don't know that it's the most well documented, or not documented, most usable. Run my test here. Need a little bit more colors here. Let's go. A little bit more contrast. The thing with testing this is I actually don't know. I don't have a good way to customize a session config in the test. Semicolons, very helpful. No renderable diagnostics found. Oof. Let's go with that's a little bit better. I like that. Good morning. Hello. So I'm working on issue 3751. You know? The sucker. I'm just trying to burn through a lot of simple pull requests that have been, or issues that have been sitting around waiting for somebody to spend some time with them. I decided I'd get up early this morning and get some stuff done. So this one's pretty easy. It's just a question of pulling pulling a variable through the optimize builder. And now where do I go? Because we do. Oh, I see why we may not have pulled this through. So this Z order. We have DataFusion capable and non-DataFusion capable optimize. And so session config, if I'm pulling session config through, that means that I'm actually leaking some DataFusion functionality up into the optimize builder. Let me double check that assumption that we are doing. Where do I pull in optimize? I think it's here. This is mod. So where does optimize come in? Oh, we're only pulling optimize in with DataFusion. Okay, so I'm safe to use this. DataFusion adds like 100+ crates to the dependency tree, so we try to only incorporate it if it's needed. But it looks like we're already incorporating it here. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that means on our session config, where's our Z order exec context? That means that we just need to pull it through to here. And then here we can do an unwrapper default on the optional session config. Z order exec context. Yeah, why is this this feature config here? Because it doesn't actually matter. We already have to be in a DataFusion context here. This is actually pretty funny because if this code could work without DataFusion, like immediately we would start to fail because exec context would not be defined. So that's unnecessary. Here, I think we can pull through our session config. I think we have that on our builder. Oh no, we've got to insert that through. Excuse. This code is wacky. It's kind of a mess. Because we have our, let's think. We have our builder that creates a bunch of state, and then we get into this merge plan, and the merge plan is where we have to shove this, this variable through. Like this is actually a very simple request, but because there's it's layers of crazy onion that are wrapped in here, it makes it difficult to pull this data through. And because I, don't have the best grasp of where optimize builder turns into merge plan. Okay, optimize builder has a future implemented. This is a wacky paradigm, or architecture that I think Robert gets credit for, where we implement into future on some things, which means you can just await them, like they just become a feature. You can do like an into dot await, and it turns them into async blah blah blahs, which is clever, I guess. But create merge plan. Okay, so create merge plan is going to have to take session config, right? Yeah. Okay, so that means we got to go over to create merge plan, and now you need a session config, and then when session for a compact, we need to give. I actually think build Z order plan needs it. I don't think. So Z order plan, just pull in variables through, doing some really important engineering work here. And then here, we've built Z order plan. Here, I think, is where we do a new of our operation Z order. We create our operation, which means we're going to pull it through. Wait a second. Wait just a second here. This doesn't make sense. Snapshot, Z order calls, blah, blah, blah. Oops. So in our merge plan, or when we execute the merge plan, where was I? I lost the thread. Shit. Okay, so let's go back to where we are. Using this. Okay, so Z order exec context is where we need to pull this through. Z order exec context is created by who? Not there. It is created here. And oh, okay. So we have an optimize operations. Oof. Making this code this complex was a team effort. It was a team effort for sure. Okay, so we have two different types of optimize operations, and that's an enum, and that enum brings data. Oh, good grief. Okay, so this enum brings data through. We have our builder. We start to turn that into an operation that instantiates we call build Z order plan or build compaction plan. Those will create some stuff, and then they create this optimization, which when we get into, what's this function? Execute, we then use those operation enums to actually create our optimization and pull data through. Ugh. I do not like this. Okay, so we're just gonna, it's not my fault that this code is bad. It's nobody's fault. It's a team effort, but I'm not gonna spend too much time worrying about how ugly this is. Okay, so this needs session config, and then that gets pulled through there on our new for Z order exec context, which now comes to here. Oof, just grimace. And then here, we now have our session config. We can finally do session config and wrap or default to preserve the existing behavior. Now, I'm sure all these tests are gonna fail. And they did. So what failed here? Look at all these beautiful warnings. We have so many deprecations that need to... Is there no error? Oh, I gotta enable DataFusion in the default features here. Where's my default features? So these tests aren't being run because the module is not default DataFusion. There's some way to tell NeoTest. That's what is this. There's some way to tell NeoTest optionally what features you need to run. How one does that, I don't know. Can you pull this? That's a great question. Session context. Can I pull it out of the session context that comes through? So the session context we actually are creating on the exec context. It's not being pulled through. It might be smarter to pull session context through as opposed to session config. Because I don't know if we have... Let me go up to build Z order plan. I don't know if we have a session context that far out in the scope. Because yes, you can, like, the config gets nested under the session context. You're absolutely correct there. But this is not something we might not have it that far out. Let me go even further out to the operation. Through the builder. Like, do we accept it in the builder? We do not. I'm gonna pull the docs up and pull those on screen. Because session config I don't think is useful, or as useful, I should say, as session context. Like, session context in DataFusion is a pretty powerful beast, but I don't know if you have it, and I don't know if you care to have it with, you know. Because here you can get a copy of it. So what do we get on? You know, I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted on whether it's better to have context or config this deep, because we are like, what the original, get this out of the way real quick. What the original person was mentioning is that they just want to control the compute, which makes sense. If you allow somebody to pull context all the way through, there's a chance that they might have like registered tables or other things that have been added into that context, which could pollute the execution. But yeah, I'm not sure. My tests all failed. That means my compilation probably fails. Variant takes 3 arguments, but only 2 were supplied. That's in my test, I think, 1046. So let's go. Let's just pass none through. This is on build Z order plan. No, I need it actually. I need my session config there. Let's render away. So this is NeoVim. I've spent more time than I would like to disclose on making sure that NeoVim is a good, good Rust development environment. A lot of that is through Rustation Vim, I think is what it's called, which is this fantastic collection of some different packages in NeoVim. I'm gonna put that in the chat because I think it's a really great resource. Oh, I should sponsor them. How do? All right, let's go sponsor. Pull that off screen. Mark Jacoby. Doing great work, Mark Jacoby. Ta-da! Hooray, we sponsored Mark for his great work on NeoVim. I hadn't noticed that before. I'm glad I looked. Okay, so our test passed. This, I mean, whatever. This is a simple issue. I'm just gonna call it here and get a commit going. Nope, we don't want that. We'll take this. Just pulling session config all the way through. And this all looks sane. It's just tedious. That's where the meat is. All right. actually, I want to delta rs. We should actually go into the Python thing and let's do it. We didn't change any public APIs, I think, with this. We just extended the builder API, so that's good. So I'm going to call this a feature. Sept session config. What are you called? What's your name? Where was I? Here. Z order exec context. Okay. Let's make Florian review this. I reviewed Florian's code, he should review mine. So that pull request is submitted. What's going on in the bottom pane here is it's just before CI runs, because sometimes GitHub CI action runners can take a while. I want to build this change with our Python bindings, because our Python bindings is usually where I'll find DataFusion related regressions. Because we have a bunch of dependencies there. Okay. While that goes, let's look for another issue that's assigned to me. So we did that one. That one was pretty simple. Let's look at this one. Actually, this one I wanted to tackle first because I like this change. This is going to be an API break. What are we doing? Viewing. They basically want table mod. History. That's what we're looking for. This is returning a vec, a collected vec history, as opposed to an iterator. I made this comment in the pull request. I actually don't think we should be returning collected vecs anywhere. Like returning iterators opens you up, makes it a lot easier to do like lower memory. Like a collect means you have to walk the iterator, collect everything into memory. The reason I think we are doing a collect is because we do have some results that we're doing a try collect on, and so like the signature basically is going to have to change from result vec to probably a iterator item equals results commit info. And so, you know, that is a different kettle. I might have to be a result of this actually. So it might have to look like this, because we have a couple of different question marks. I don't know what the question mark operator is called, but we have a couple of those because we might not have our snapshot. Oh, I forgot. There's three possible ways that this function could fail. But this becomes a breaking change to return an iterator. So let me think about this and push the button. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. After they're done talking. Okay, my Python test passed, so I'm gonna switch off this branch and we will create a new branch. So, let's call it, what are we doing? Iterable history. Oh, I should make this what's the ticket number? 3753. History. Okay. Oh shoot. I gotta go back to the gotta go back to my previous branch. Where was I? What was I on? Optional session config. Okay. Because I just realized I think I committed my cargo toml change, which I did not mean to do. Whoops. I didn't mean to enable that as a default feature. Okay, there we go, that's correct. Now we can go over, where was I? Finch iterable history. I don't need that feature back, so let's just see what our tests do here. This has to fail. This is a signature change. This has to fail. The question is if it will, or how it will. What? My test did not fail. So I didn't get a compilation error either? What? Oh, I see why. It's because I stashed my, okay. Okay, can we sequence the type such that we only have the outside result? I don't think so, because if you do like an iter map, and inside your map you have a result type, this try collect is the only way I know that you can pull that out, or pull that result type out. I don't know that there's another way to get that out. So let me pull up the try collect documentation. Like, I'm pretty sure try collect is the whole reason that this does because we're trying to get just a singular result out. This is not the try collect I'm looking for, is it? Because this says you are nightly. What are we doing a try collect on? We get that's not net. I'm using it. I don't need nightly. There's the nightly on the experimental API. I don't think that's true. It's right there. I see it. Is this a different try collect? What try collect are you? This could be in future. That's what it is. It's in the, okay. Rustation Vim. I'm telling you, look how great this is. I got my Rust doc right there. I said, what is this? I hit Shift K, which is conventional in Vim, to pull up like man pages for a symbol or something. And there's my docs. How wonderful. All right, so let's go look at try collect. Okay, so it's in TriStream. This does in a wait. It's this, I don't know. I think try collect doesn't require you to do a collect, but somewhere, I don't know. Collect all successful results, collect them into a specified collection type. If an error happens in all collected, they will be dropped, and the error will be returned. You know, we might be able to. So what I believe our friend in the chat is suggesting is that we drop this inner result, so we would have result iterator, blah, blah, blah. This is not supposed to compile. But let's expect to type found a trait. Do you like that? Impl iterator, I can never remember. Yeah. Okay. What if we just do this? Could it be that simple? It might be that simple. Still an API change, technically, if it is that simple. Yeah. Because our own code does an index into it. Okay. So this is in drop constraints. Let's go over there. Because we unwrap it. Oh, this is in tests. Okay. That's cool. Just do an unwrap to vec. Okay, that's fun. Do we have another spot where this is failing? Let's run these tests again. Undefined to vec. Oh, maybe I just need to collect. Okay. If you say so, Rusty. You're the boss. Which means I think I am going to have to do a vec of commit info here to tell it what I'm collecting into. Waiting for the test to run. Oh, this is not going to run there because this is guarded by DataFusion. The DataFusion feature. Oh, we are? Do we have a DataFusion feature? Cannot find. Fun. Okay. Okay. There was another one I thought I saw in the errors. There's somewhere else where we refer to it like just as commit infos. Okay. this is on constraints. Okay. Constraints, and then the right mod, 262. Da 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 da. Seems like a pretty simple fix. This is also in test. Oh, hey, it's the same code. How about that? We'll collect. I think we need commit info here, but we find ourselves regularly telling people don't rely on history like this, because history is optional in the Delta protocol. And so if you are expecting history to be there, it might not. Where was that? Was it utils, or was it test utils? Man, I don't know. I'm just gonna have to go. I think you are right. Eagle eye. Because we are gonna no, the signature, this unwrap, we get a result, an iterator result. Let's go back to what the code I was screwing up here. So we have our inner result. Now, the question is, I don't know if we are erasing errors or hiding errors at any point. I remember seeing some code that we had elsewhere. This is right mod 772, okay. Right mod. I remember seeing some code somewhere else, and I just didn't have the time to go reproduce it, where we were actually erasing an error, which I was surprised to find. Data kernel, I don't feel like importing that. We got an unwrap, collect. So let's go here. I hope that I have a test failure once the compilation failures. Oh gosh, there's more. They were just hiding. Oh no. Delete, merge mod. No good deed goes unpunished. Look at all this copy and pasted code we have in the merge. Hit the merge module. Oh, good grief. Okay. Let's do delete first. Okay, we got. We're doing this enough in our tests where I actually think I should add a helper function and just hide it for everybody but us. You know, async function. Just put this on the table. Just do a commit info. Just do that here. I feel like this is a bad idea. Self history, none, await, percolate that, collect, infos, and then just return infos at index 0. We do this enough that I feel like this is a good idea. Which we'll need a pub crate on that. Internal test. Just commit table. used wacky too much this morning already, so we'll call it silly. This is the convenience function. I think I should add a limit on last commit function since we. That's fair. Someone. Need to find someone. Make those tests nice and speedy. I think I should actually hide this behind test as well. I feel like this is maybe a better idea instead of just going and copy pasting everywhere in all of these tests. So our last commit here is going to be table last commit unwrap. That feels better, right? Let me think about that. I think that is better. Let's go over to drop constraints where I had one too. Oh, I need an await. There's an await there. And an await and an unwrap. Yeah, it feels better to do that than to go copy paste all of this shit everywhere. Because we use it frequently enough. The first mute, I'm gonna leave that one as it is. I don't wanna touch that at the moment. But we had a bunch in delete where we're just grabbing the last commit. Last commit info, clone. What? What is this? What? We just don't. Did we just not even use last commit? Where in this test? Okay, so we grab last commit and then we clone. We clone extra info and then we immediately do nothing with it. Okay, just gonna delete that. That's an easy fix. Oh hey, cheap viewers, thanks. Let's get rid of you. It's, you know, always gotta be somebody. Show me my mod controls. Goodbye.
Something new from Anjuna Deep Explorations. That's Abacus with profundities.
And then I think, where else was our failure? We saw in merge mod, that's where it was. There's a lot of commit info copy pasta. So let's just, now we'll just have a lot of table last commit, await unwrap copy pasta, which is an improvement. Do we use last commit here? Yes, last commit is used there. We will copy paste there. Last commit is used again. Is last commit used here? It appears so. Brilliant. I feel like this is a good refactor. Okay. We're using last commit there. We're using last commit again there. A lot of these tests feel like they're checking the same things, but I'm not sure. But my goal is to get this done, you know, improve a little bit and move on. Good grief, Charlie Brown. This is so much copy pasta. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think we've fixed them all. I'm gonna come back to my mod. I should add a test case for this. I should. Type annotations needed. Yeah. You know, that's fair. That's fair, Rusty. I agree with you. We should do type annotations. Oh, and I need to get an OK out. Okay, I've got 22 minutes in theory until expected result. Wait, didn't I just do that? Oh, maybe my test hadn't run with that change. Expect Robert in 22 minutes, and then we can do some column mapping hacking. Maybe make some progress there. We'll see. Who knows? It's not knowable. We will make progress or not. We might. All right, we got another failure. Move cursor. Oh, I gotta clone it. Okay. But we do an into iter, but we're moving out. How can I consume this? Does first consume? I don't remember. Let's go look at the back. I thought I could consume. Maybe can we pop from the front? First, this first, no, I want to consume. Deref. Can I just deref that out? Just, it's my vec. Let me do what I want with it. Can't be dereferenced. Womp womp. I feel like there's got to be a better way to consume this. I don't want to just. And let's go to Rustspec consume. Refactor again. I don't know, the consuming effect and. This is what I'm asking for. Okay. Well, I guess I'll into iter and that seems silly. Blend. Pop was not consuming. Well, pop gives you a reference. At least I thought I saw it. Let's go. Pop gives you option T. But that's the last. I feel like pop the first element using vec DQ. Pop front. So I guess my options are, we could, can you just collect into a vecd queue? Double-ended queue, blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's fair. There is only one element. We should be pretty confident that there is only one element. Hey, I thought I changed you to someone there. Yeah. Pop. Is it okay? That is a fair point. We should. I can never remember nothing. Can't remember nothing about that. I thought it was. Is it map? Map or? What do I do to get my result out? I thought it was map. No, map or? Okay, or. That's what it is. Okay, or. What error should we? Hey, I got there. I found okay or. It took me a little while. Expected value, short amount of value. Oh. It was generic. But that means I gotta like string this. I got my okay or docs up. Tell me this. Mute infos. That makes sense since I'm going to mutate it. All right, please work so I can move on. Oh, we got more. Operations delete, update. Okay, thought I got all the ones in delete. Oh, thank you. Thanks for being a big fan of Delta RS. I use this project a ton. It was originally created for writes. It was originally created for a lot of writes, and I find myself using it more and more for read workloads nowadays. And I am very grateful that people came along and added Python bindings. I'm very grateful that people integrated DataFusion, and the DataFusion project continues to make things pretty excellent. Because the difference between doing something in Spark and in Delta Rust is a pretty big difference. I've also learned so much about Rust. This is about a 5-year-old project. This is probably the first big project that I've worked on in Rust. Oh, cool. Whole data pipeline based on Delta Rust. Yeah, I've seen that more and more when I mean, there's some selection bias in being a maintainer of Delta Rust, seeing people using Delta Rust. But the... where's Robert? Why, hello. Robert hasn't woken up yet. He's in Europe, but he hasn't woken up yet. No, he's probably busy. This is on his calendar at 7 a.m. Pacific, so like 13-ish minutes we'll see him floating by. I also haven't started the stream together. I'm not taking visitors at the moment. I'm just trying to burn through some issues and pull requests that I had floating around. While I'm paying attention here, so we've made history lazy, not doing collects, which is important, and this is a breaking change. So this is actually going to become 029 is going to be our next release of Delta Rust. Because we're like loosely semantically versioned, blah, 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 blah. Okay, come on, Rusty. What now? So much copy paste. Okay, so this is write mod 819. Try collect doesn't do a collect. You're looking at the try collect is implemented on the future stream. We were just looking at that. So try collect doesn't actually do a collect because we're not using the vec try collect, which is a nightly experimental, which I've learned today. But this line was doing a collect because the prior prototype for this was return a result of vec. And so now we're returning impl iterator, but we have so many assumptions in our tests that we have a vec coming out of history because we have so many tests that are assuming that history is like a thing you can trust. We're neither here nor there. We'll complain about that. And also, no limit on this load of history, which is fun. But this is in write mod 815. Write mod 315 or 815, I think it was, where we do a look at the length. Like, why? You already know that you've got one version. This is not a useful check. Okay, so we're just gonna remove that. If you have a version of version 0, that means you've only written one. Anytime I touch futures, the futures create. I have to read the documentation. It's like a galaxy brain beyond me is how futures work. So I'm like, okay, this turns into that, and that implements this, and then good luck, you know. Then I'm confused. So like this is why? And then we load the history again. Okay. Look at this. And then we get the last commit. So we load the history once in this test, and then we load the history again. Like, the table's small, it's all the memory, but like, this is silly. So we'll just load the history once. This was supposed to be a 3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour. I mean, the reason I wanted to set aside some time, Steven, and get up early and like just focus on some of these small pull requests, because they're these little requests, these little things, but because of some of the organic growth, I will say, of our code base, they take a little bit more effort than I would like them to take. So here we're just gonna say our history, and then we'll just grab the like assert equals. This is, in my opinion, not a very good test, but I'm not here to fix every test that I disagree with. I'm just here to get this change working. Life before async in Rust. Fortunately, I came along to Rust around the time when async kind of was starting to actually happening. It was starting to really, really pop off. But that means I had to deal with like the async reactor debates. Should we not, like, I think, are we async yet? I think that's still async, yeah. Yes, we're async. I should probably get the stream together set up, which means my local machine is gonna get slow. That means I've got to, let's, I think because OBS has stolen my my camera, I can't let Firefox take it for stream together. But I'll go ahead and at least invite my esteemed guests. And they can arrive whenever. Okay, why are my tests not running? This is quite annoying. Come over here. There was one other failure, I don't remember where it was. Whoa. I don't know. Well, shit. I hit a quit and I didn't expect to quit. Ah, this is why the tests weren't running. Okay. Because I've changed the major version number, now I've got to change all these stupid crates. I'm going to change the version number back for now just to run these tests. But this is a breaking change, so. So that's fun. Breaking changes all around. Got to find some way to get fewer crits linked here. Integration DataFusion. Oh gosh. Just no good deed goes unpunished. Yes. All hail. Right mod. I like control box more. I'm gonna have to run my tests. The thing that's kind of difficult about, let's say, the kernel world for Delta Rust is kernel is not done. I don't know what done would actually look like, to be honest. But kernel is built for other things, not just, I would say, not just the Delta Rust project, which means there's other design decisions coming into play, which make things really complicated for us if Delta kernel does not behave the way that we expect it to. And what makes things like even more frustrating is, like, in Delta Rust, if something doesn't work the way that I expect it to when we're reading the transaction log or processing one thing or the other, I just go change it. I think correctly so, Delta kernel's APIs in some places are quite encapsulated. which I mean abstraction should encapsulate. I don't like leaky abstractions. They cause tons of problems. But that also means like if there's something behaving not the way that we want it to, we're kind of SOL. Oh, you wanted that? Tough. You don't get that. Or that works slightly differently. Well, go fix it in kernel, which is a hugely complicated endeavor when you have a bug from Delta Rust that you have to go into kernel to fix, because you have to set up your local development environment just right. You have to have your dependencies wired through correctly, and then you've got to fix the thing there to update it here, and it's super frustrating. And then we're stuck behind yet another upstream dependencies release cycle, which is like the story of our lives in Delta Rust. It's either Apache Arrow, Apache DataFusion, Apache Arrow Object Store, Delta kernel. Basically always waiting for somebody else to release. Okay, so 866. No good deed goes unpunished. So table history map collect. I've been promised that the LLMs will fix this. Anywho's, I see Robert. Let me see if I can pull Robert in. Let's see if this works. I hear Robert. Let's see if I can switch over. Sort of. Let's pull Robert here. My things are all screwed up. Look at that beautiful screen share. Where's my screen share? What actually is my scenes? What is happening with my scenes? So Robert, we hear you, or I hear you.
Hello.
Grüß dich. I don't know if the stream hears you, but I've got to fix some of their shit first. Stream hears him now. Excellent. Thank you, Steve. There's my desktop. Okay. Unlock. Whoop. This stream, or this scene is so screwed up. Oh, look at Robert.
Hello.
Look at you, buddy. With your cool backdrop. My man's corporate Delta. I'm gonna turn music down.
Anna, can you hear me?
I can hear you. The fact that you're asking makes it sound like you can't hear me.
Maybe not.
Okay, Robert, say words. I guess you can't hear me. Okay, Robert. I think you should be able to hear me now.
Yes.
Say words again. We'll have to futz with the levels a little bit. But good morning. Good afternoon, I should say.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Well, just loving some of the complexity of our code. My favorite thing to start the day with. is accidental complexity, I'll say. My scenes in OBS are super screwed up right now, but I'm not gonna fix it. I would rather work with Robert and get some shit done than fix these scenes at the moment. So Robert, what I've been working on is I've got some pull requests and issues that I've been churning through. The one that I was futzing with is a very simple change, as are they all, to get to make history return an iterator instead of collecting into a vec. What a simple endeavor, you might think, except we have so many tests, an unbelievable amount of tests that are depending on
Yeah, history.
and
But I thought,
hard-coded things that are happening in history.
by the way, are you sharing or planning to share?
It's
If
not.
so, I'm not seeing anything.
So you're not seeing anything. The stream is seeing it. Here's
Okay.
the shitty thing that I have discovered is, based on last week, we were dropping frames because OBS on my machine cannot handle a browser source for the desktop and browser sources for the cameras, because it's like 4 Chrome tabs all doing video bananas, and my machine was just not keeping up. And so Stream Together on Twitch actually supports a screen sharing view, except the screen sharing view here, we'll entertain it briefly. I had to set up a scene for it, so I'll screen share, and you can see this. The stream can't see this, but if I try to do Stream Together, like just show people what we are, the view that we have, it actually, oh, Robert's really huge now. Like, you have no control over the layout. There's the desktop. And so the actual scene that shows up on the stream is just super messed up. So like, we'll see what happens when Zach joins. I think you should be I think you should be able to see the screen well enough, maybe? Yes, no, maybe so. But I've got to stream the desktop separately from OBS instead of going through Stream Together on Twitch, because the CPUs are high.
Okay, so should I be looking at what you shared here right now, or should I be looking at something else somewhere?
If you can see the text clearly, then look at that. You just have a slightly different version of my desktop compared to the stream.
All right.
So here's another place.
You were talking about pull requests and issues, and this is
Yeah.
actually something I need to.
Do you have pull requests and issues?
I need to get back into it as well, but I saw one that already merged that may be worth looking into, because there may be some implications
Oh, Florian's?
in the whole.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, I knew that was going to have implications.
I mean, it's an awesome feature, and I meant to do this.
That's why I merged it before you woke up.
Long. So I'm very happy that Florian did this. But yeah, there are some things we should be looking out for.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and one thing that I don't know, I just kind of glanced through it at the cell phone, but we're using the Delta table state, and the short version is we should not.
Seems very straightforward. Here, I'm gonna pull my.
Yeah, I mean the reason why we should not is we want to go through this one snapshot and
Too big.
yeah, normalize on those APIs. But I don't know what do we want to do today. Unfortunately, I haven't worked on the big one, the scan, but
I've noticed.
I will.
I've heard that before.
I will be working on that. Well, eventually it always happens. It's just. But this is one I'm also very eager about. But it's also
I think what would probably be best. Let me see if I can make my local machines. Oh god, this just gets worse and worse. There's so many places where we do certain. Okay, maybe I might need to come back to this. I'm gonna kill the music and I'm gonna kill some browser tabs.
But yeah, what I'm still not fully caught up on what we're doing or why or how I can be of service.
Well, so you haven't had a chance to do much of the scan stuff, or take a look at that, right? So I don't know how much progress we're going to be able to make on column mapping.
No, I think what we need to do is fairly clear, and it just needs to be done. And then as we pull on this thread, probably a couple of things will unravel. But yeah. But there's obviously other things we can look into. But if you have kind of this, I mean, as you mentioned, making this an iterator is kind of
fun.
an annoying task. Yeah. And actually, also moving to kernel, a lot of this is just kind of handling the fact that we use some of the APIs that we want to deprecate so much in tests.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. One of the things, so these tests are kind of a weak approximation of transaction log history. And so they're using the commit history API in a way that I think is bad. I'm going to make a value judgment here. It is bad. People should not do this. But the reason that we do this and the reason that people tend to do this is they're trying to assert around the state of the transaction log. And the history API is the closest that we've exposed to a public API that gives you some insight into what the transaction log actually looks like. But it's not the transaction log. And so if Steven is up to join us, I sent Steven an invite. I think it would be cool to talk about what amount of transaction log we should expose. You know? Like what should we actually give users and why? Because we clearly find use in attesting to the status, I should say, of the transaction log via the history API in these tests. And that's a smell, right? Like that's telling us something that we in Delta Rust are relying on the transaction log. Oh, I see two Stevens. Which one do I choose? Oh, I choose the one that remains. And let's see if my computer can handle three guests. You know, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop sharing. There's Steven.
Can you hear me?
And I'm going to see if I could just...
Let's try. That's
just works.
Surprising.
It's almost like I've streamed before in the past.
So now I don't see any more. But yeah, navigating the code base in the head is also fairly straightforward.
It is not.
Yeah, I also do not see the code anymore.
thank you for joining, Stephen, and jumping up.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I'm East Coast, so it's 10 a.m.
You're like,
here. I'm always awake.
Waked up, ready to go.
No, actually not. You're a morning person. I'm very much not.
So,
I don't. My mind doesn't start kicking off until like 11 at least.
well, maybe we can help get that going. So, I mean, you're listening, you're hanging out. So, thank you for stepping up. I'm curious. You've seen some use of this. You've seen people use history. I know Ian has also seen people use history in anger, like for transaction log insights. I'll say, and I'm curious where you draw the line on that abstraction and why. I'm gonna bring my own camera in here. Sorry that I'm giant for a second. Just put myself right there.
I would say that users who want to do this kind of transaction log, like history, what question are they asking? Like, what is their inevitable solution that they're attempting to get to by probing the history? Is it a question that we could better answer with more like purpose-built things into the library, such that we don't have to just expose like the gore of the transaction log
actions.
just for everyone to... Yeah, but at the same time, like, you know, even on Databricks, like you can get the whole transaction like log history, like it's something in the JVM implementation, and it just, you know, it works. So like there's no shortage of other ways to access like an entire raw history with all the actions and everything. So while under most circumstances I would question why they're using the history and predicate that, like, if you understand it and you know what you're doing, you can probably do what you need to do there. But under normal circumstances, you probably shouldn't want to reach for the history by default.
Normal circumstances is an interesting phrase. So like the stuff that I build,
like for example, if you're trying to get like metric, like commit metrics or like merge metrics or something like that, like going through the history or something like that is probably like, you know, painful to implement that. Like, you know, is there a way to expose maybe just like the metrics of like a merge commit or something like that in a better way that doesn't expose like every action?
So at least so far, I mean, the history command itself, right? That's an official command, and that's the commit actions. Actually, I don't know if they actually contain the metrics. They might. I mean, if they're somewhere, they're there.
That's where people get in
They
trouble.
can. I mean, they definitely contain the parameters, right? I mean, the commit action is ill-defined in a sense. And I've seen use cases where people squeeze stuff into the commit action just as additional metadata for their own applications. And especially in Delta RS, I think that was the only way to do it. Today, you would not want to do this, right? Today, you would want to use domain metadata or something else, or I don't know, app transactions with some external state to store, I don't know, your application state also in the Delta table. So I think the history command itself needs to be supported in some way, shape, or form. But
Yeah.
obviously,
I'll take
but
back everything
obviously,
I said if it's part of the spec.
I mean, the history command.
Yeah,
I mean, the history command is not part of the spec. The history command is just kind of part of the official documentation. I think there's this describe history SQL command, right?
But
Yeah. Okay. In that
But the
case, I would say that it's so there's two schools here. There's parity, and then there's like just open, I guess, openness. I mean, I guess in this case, parity is openness because it just gives you everything, right?
Yeah, I mean the big thing. Yeah, I mean the big thing, and I don't know where we are actually with those APIs. And this is something also kind of a little bit related to the previous PR, like the insert into PR. And just validate something really quick to make sure I'm not saying anything wrong. But I think we used the file actions. The file actions field somewhere. And this, for instance, is something that I think I wanted to deprecate it or haven't deprecated. I'm not entirely sure. But exposing on the action level stuff like this is, I think, something we should just kind of stop doing. And this is where we should push people into, well, you'll have to use the data. Just kind of the raw data we parse from the, like we read from the log. Yeah.
So, Detox mentions this in the chat, but one of the big use cases for Delta Rust is I would say, working more closely, like being a little bit more close to the metal of what is going on with the Delta transaction log. And a lot of people are using, like app transactions as an example, you don't get arbitrary metadata that you can pull through. You get a transaction ID and you are expected to store that metadata elsewhere. I don't know enough about domain metadata, but there are definitely people that are using that commit history as a way to bring metadata from one commit to the other. But what Detox is mentioning in the chat is also, I would say, a fairly common use case where people are using the history API that we expose as a way to understand what operations have occurred. And so the operation ID or the operation information is meaningful and relevant to some applications.
To be honest, even for me, yeah, I think it's interesting to look at. It's interesting to see when you talk about Delta. And to the question in the chat, I think yes, you should get all of this, and we should aim. And I think we're not even in a bad place there. I think we're in a pretty good place. Aim to expose the same or similar metrics as Spark would expose on commits, so that people can kind of understand what they do, what don't they do. If they want to build their own kind of predictive optimization stuff, this would be a first thing to look into, kind of how much work do I do on every merge, on every optimize, on every whatever. What do I need to tune my frequencies to, right? So does it suffice to checkpoint every 100 commits, or should it be every 10, or should it be something else? And I think the commit log and the metrics are exactly the way to do this. Then again, this is kind of a free for all, right? And we shouldn't make it too convenient to use this again to store arbitrary metadata. To be honest, so far we couldn't give you a good alternative. And as you said, the transaction IDs, they're just IDs. And that is it. But domain metadata is the same thing, just instead of an integer, you store a string. And with that, you can serialize anything into it. Well, that's the idea. It's not, we didn't want to repeat kind of the mistakes from the commit info where, we essentially allow an arbitrarily nested JSON structure, but say, yeah, you can store an arbitrarily nested JSON structure serialized as a string.
That. Just give me a big bucket of bytes that I can shove more data into.
So in modern Delta,
I have seen customers who have basically nuked their ability to do metadata reads because they've shoved massive things in that. And for better or for worse, if someone can, they will.
This is exactly. I agree with that. And maybe it's worthwhile to even go into the documentation and write a little bit about, okay, how do you store or associate state with the delta table in from your application? Yeah, that may be worthwhile documenting what means you have, because as you say, you pay all the bytes every time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's stuff that gets put into checkpoints, like, you pay more storage on top of it, like, there's no free lunch here, unfortunately, for it.
Yeah, and when it's in domain metadata, we can be much more selective. Under certain circumstances. Yeah.
So
That being
if I'm
said,
building an application, I think
Yeah.
like to what Detox is identifying, if I'm building an application, if I need to understand whether an optimize has run recently, is history the right API?
Yes.
If
Because history, I think, tells you these are the operations that were kind of executed
it
against
may
that table.
tell you these operations.
That's
It may tell you nothing.
Well, I mean, it tells you every commit, and if there is no other place where you could get more information.
There's no other place.
I
But
mean, you could.
The problem is that data is optional, and engines, ours included, put different data there. And so I guess the reason I'm wondering if there's a better way for us to expose this in Delta Rust is because there's this optionality underneath it. If there's other, like if we have other data that is actually in the transaction log that would tell you that.
So not in the transaction log. There is something I'm excited to play with, and I just need to find some time. But there is an extension for DataFusion that essentially combines or exposes your metrics via OpenTelemetry in traces. And I thought that, which is awesome. So if you're really serious, we need to expose the session and make sure you can have a session where you enable that extension, and then you can get you get all the timings, all of this goodness with it, and I thought that was really cool. Is that something that the casual or professional user has set up for every Delta table they're operating? Probably not.
Does that also include queries that fail? Like the failure conditions of metrics? Like I was running a merge and I got X amount of, I got through it, and then for whatever reason I failed. Do the metrics for that one still get delivered?
To be honest, I don't know. It's fairly fine granular, as it sort of follows you through the planning process and exposes all the metrics on all the. Actually, the picture I see only saw physical nodes. But it gets kind of exposed on the fly, and I presume when something fails, it'll also tell you that. I mean, tracing that doesn't show an error, I would say, well, yeah,
Not very good
nice,
tracing.
but
It's not great tracing.
yeah.
But like Tyler had said something a few minutes ago about like it might show you like all the actions that have happened on a table. Were you talking specifically about like when things go wrong? Like, is there a use case where I ran an optimize, for whatever reason it failed or whatever, but that doesn't make it into the transaction log under normal circumstances. Like the history is only things that successfully happened, right?
In scenarios that I've seen, we're looking for the absence, which the optionality of the history API is what makes that challenging. Is if you're looking for have I not had an optimized recently, the absence of optimize in history means either one didn't happen or
one didn't happen successfully.
Yeah, like it's that negative signal. But I've also seen there was an issue recently. I wish I could remember which one it was, where somebody was using history to determine freshness of the writes to the table. And so I had suggested to them, like, if you've got a timestamp or something equivalent in your data itself, please use that instead. Like, you know, partition on that, or, you know, use file stats to fish that up. But let's say your data does not have a timestamp. It has no time field, which is a data modeling problem that we can set aside for another day. The history API is how you would know right now how fresh something is, because if you just look, give me the latest version.
Yeah, when the last thing happened.
Well, this is where we hide some data. Like when we look at the latest version, we give you an int64, and we say, this is your int64. Good luck. That's what version it is. If you want to know what that int64 actually means, you have to go to the history API. But in that, like,
to get what?
Most users are looking like to see what operations happened or what other information happened. But if you like, I'm not advocating for anything necessarily of like exposing raw actions up to users to create writes or to do anything that they can't already do. But if your question is what has gone on in this version, history is the only thing we offer today, which is it's a potentially untruthful API, because there's what actually happened, which are the actions that are in that version and the other information that's there, and then there's what the history API says, which may or may not include everything, or it may lie to you because it's completely arbitrary what's going into there. And so we just don't like, if I've hit this with the.
I mean, but just for me to understand really quick, right? Because sure, the content of a commit action is somewhat arbitrary. I think we already correlate the commit actions with the version, right? So
yes, on the history API.
I mean, in that sense, I think this is the best we will ever be able to do, because we can't force anybody. I don't know, Steve, do you know if you have in-commit timestamp feature enabled, are you then required to write a commit action, or only if you write one, you have to commit, you have to include the timestamp? I'm not sure about that.
I think if you have in-commit timestamp enabled, you have to include a timestamp, but otherwise.
But I could still choose not. No. But I could still choose not to write a commit info, because it's not a required action. I could just choose not to write one at all, right?
I guess. But if you enabled in-commit timestamp and then didn't provide it, that would kind of I would imagine that you're not technically like. I mean, but think about it for a second. Like, in-commit timestamp or features generally change the contract of the table, or what you should expect out of them based on, you know, what your features you have enabled. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that in-commit timestamp changes the requirement of a commit info to be populated in some fashion. I would probably defer to Ryan here for the correctness of this argument, but my own interpretation of it is that, you know, features, when you enable or disable them, basically modify the contract that you keep with. That's
absolutely the case. That's absolutely the case, and once you have it, I think you. So I know that there is a requirement from that point on that the commit info is the first action in a commit file. Given that this is constrained, I would argue that you also have to write it, and obviously it also has to contain the actual in commit timestamp. Otherwise, why have the feature at all, right?
Yeah, I make it if you're not going to write it. Like,
but if we correlate, even without the feature, if we correlate the commits with a version, this is the best we will ever be able to give. If they wanted to see, let's say, the number of files in each version, the only way we could give that to you sort of reliably right now, because essentially they would need to do a log replay and then do every step of the log replay. And they kind of just can do that by taking a Delta table and updating it version by version by version by version, and then looking at what are the active files in the state.
Yeah.
And then we also have an API where they can get sort of the raw action stream, right?
What API is that?
Processed, unfiltered.
Are you talking about kernel or Delta Rust?
Well, I don't think Well, I think kernel. If you're, yeah. So I mean, the thing that I wanted to do, and I mentioned this a while ago, I think, is to just separate concerns, because I think one thing we found, and this is kind of to Steve's point in the beginning, right? What do people want to do? And I think we have two kinds of people. One people, they just want to work with data. Yes, they just want to work with data, right? So they just want this to be fast and correct and just convenient to use. And it's really just about scanning and, I don't know, right? Having some sort of sense, okay, when is it fresh? When is it not fresh? What have you? And then there's the others, and these are the ones who sort of build applications on top of and around this, who want the inverse, who may not actually ever scan the table because their customers do, but they want to understand the log really, really well. And I think these two very different use cases warrant two different APIs. One being sort of the Delta table we have right now, and another one could be like sort of a dedicated log one. And some patterns are forming in the code base that go into that direction, which I think, as we did in the past, have Delta table just expose everything that anybody ever needed for anything. I don't think this is the way to go to make something digestible, right? So I would argue there isn't that many people in the world who scan through the Delta table APIs as often as we did. And at least for me, it's sometimes like, okay, why is this function? Why do we need like slight variations of the same function exposed? Well, I don't know. There's many things where I feel I learned something new over the years and maybe wouldn't repeat stuff from the past exactly the same way.
I don't know about you, Robert, but I read the entire spec every night before I go to bed.
It's comforting. That's just good reading. I mean,
yeah, little spot of tea, whole Delta spec, good time.
Yeah. Actually, we should just create. I mean, Tyler, you already published a book about Delta, and I think like a Delta spec audio book or something would be a good idea.
And I should read it because I have the most boring monotone voice, so it'll just be great to put people to sleep.
Well, I have to do something a different stream, Delta Lake After Dark, where Stephen incredulously reads you the Delta protocol.
Delta spec ASMR.
Please do.
Just one more thing to mention that timestamps generally in commits in commit timestamps entirely exist because timestamps themselves in commits are not truthful all the time. And so the problem here, and I'll use CDF as an example here, is so prior to in commit timestamp existing, CDF used modified times, like system operating system times on files to determine when truly like timestamps aligned with versions, because they basically they just didn't trust the actual commit like written in the Delta log at all. And so if you have in commit timestamps, though, they are thought to be the air quote correct thing that binds these two concepts together. And so I would say that if we're going to provide like an API that maps these two together, then like having in-commit timestamp should be a requirement by the very virtue of in-commit timestamp exists for that purpose by itself.
Yeah.
But if you don't if you don't have in-commit timestamp enabled on the table, then it's likely a better idea to communicate in some fashion to the user that, hey, you're doing this, but you shouldn't necessarily trust like the relationship between these two things because of the dishonest nature of just the timestamp field in the commit itself.
I think, and I'm not sure about this, but I think in Delta RS we never actually worked with the timestamp field in the commit info.
I just think we just make it a Unicode or a chrono now.
Yeah, but I know in interpreting it after the fact that so when reading back commits, I don't think, but the timestamp field in the commit, because I thought we were using the system file system timestamps, which obviously can be quite problematic as well.
Yes, and so I know that Delta Spark you will write those commit timestamps to be system times, and so when I went and originally did CDF reading, I decided to just use timestamp because we were using modified in our writes, and Delta Spark was also using modified time in their writes as well, and so checking again the modified time seemed redundant in virtue of the fact that commit timestamp when it was there was always modified time from the two large implementations. And so but in commit timestamp should replace all of that.
And this comes again to, okay, we need to scan via kernel. Because I think it could be timestamps. To be honest, I don't even know what the full support means.
It's late afternoon.
It's late afternoon.
You know, coupled with audio NyQuil, that is my voice. I understand.
I like that audio NyQuil. I would agree. Well, so one of the things listening,
that feels great.
as relaxing as listening to you two talk is, one of the things that strikes me is I think I might have to bully you both into spending more time with our Python APIs, because the primary place that I see people using history to do things that we probably shouldn't be doing with is actually through the Python APIs, which is where most people are interacting with Delta Rust, right? And there, we don't expose actions or any of this other nonsense up into the Python layer. We basically just give you, like, you can get the active files. I think you might be able to get tombstones, and you can get history. And that's kind of it. And so we've made this sort of like design choice, either intentionally or unintentionally, I really don't know, to make the Python API simpler, or it's neutered in a way compared to the Rust APIs. And what we're seeing are users that are wanting to do more advanced table operations or table management that are coming from Python. They're not in Rust, they're coming from Python. And so they're doing things with the APIs that are available to them. And that's part of.
But I just may have forgotten. But what's the thing that we can't do right now? Because I think exposing the history, exposing all the commit actions, and correlating those with versions, so that people could see there is a gap somewhere, right? So I mean, information may not be available for two reasons about an operation, right? One reason is nobody ever wrote a commit info, so there's nothing to read it from. Or we did write one, it just doesn't contain any information about it, right? Neither the parameters nor the metrics. And the metrics, for instance, it's we were committing long before we were collecting any metrics on any operation. And people who were keen on having that information contributed a lot of this to collect the stats for each individual op, right? So we really can't get any better than that to tell you this is the version, this is the commit info we have for this version, And then if you want to inspect more, then you need to go into the files, right? And then again, if you really want to see sort of the diffs between versions, I think at that point you just need to look into just parse the actions essentially. And we can give you that stream of data, right? Unreconciled.
So we can. Should we be like? Is there a reason why we shouldn't expose that up to Python?
The reason I mentioned earlier, I think we should, but I don't think we should do it on the Delta table. The Delta table could have a field log, which gives you kind of the log handler, or however we want to call that thing, that then exposes a log inspection API, kind of tailored to that user. But one thing I really hated is kind of the Delta table in Rust, how many methods there were, and how use case specific, kind of in how many variants, and it's going to be fun, right? Because we expose the full path, we expose the object store path, and you can get those as vectors or as iterators, yada 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 yada. There are just too many things that are kind of adding a collect to the method. Is something I say, yes, we can expect that from the end user, that they'll do that themselves. We don't need a convenience method, it's just called another method and then adds collect to it. To me that would be ideal. We keep the table narrow and then expose something for people to go crazy on the log in a dedicated kind of structure, and then point to, let's say, the regular mechanics like domain metadata or transactions if they want to store state in the table or correlate state with the table.
Are you suggesting?
Or
It feels
table
like you're
versions.
suggesting we should expose snapshot up to Python, and that these things would hang off of snapshot, or something like that. I'm not sure if it would be snapshot. Feels like snapshot to me though. It's a little bit, it's sort of, in theory, it's a log segment
At that point where we just say, this is the list of files we consider the log, and if you want, we'll read the list of files for you and parse it into a homogeneous schema, kind of, and then we can do operations on whatever we get from there. But yeah, it's also kind of the snapshot. The difference is that the snapshot kind of has a version, right? And a current state in terms of metadata and protocol, whereas the log is just that, it's just the log. And you're not sort of pointed at a specific version, it's just these are the files, and yeah, if you want to inspect them,
I think
fine. If you want us to...
The mental heuristic that I'm trying to apply is so the Oxbow repo, it's not just one Lambda function. There's a number of different things in there. There's things which will sync table schema into glue catalog. There's something that converts CDF to CSV. That's a fun one. I'll have to tell you, Stephen, about what I'm doing with that, because it's buckets of fun. But there's a lot of these things that have to be written in Rust. Like, you just can't write them in Python, because we have taken this stance that the Python layer is less than the Rust layer for a lot of reasons, and they're not all invalid reasons. But what that means is that people who are wanting to do advanced things with a Delta table that are Python users are having to do things in what I think everybody in the Delta Rust ecosystem would say is probably a hacky way to do it. And so they get themselves into
hacky way. I mean, what you meant to say is that they have the great opportunity and pleasure to finally get into Rust, and then do a quick Python binding on whatever they want to do.
Not as easy as you would think. Turns out, the learning curve of Rust is already steep, and then there's like Rust plus embedded Python FFI nonsense through Maturin. It's like a vertical cliff for most people. I think that is to Florian's, to Eon's, and some of the folks that have joined the Delta Rust community that have made that, going from Python down. I think it's to their credit. Like, they deserve a lot of accolades for their stick-with-itness. But it is not something that I would say most normal people will be able or willing to do in order to get something done. Because a lot of people are using Python because they have shit to do, right? Like, they're trying to get something done. And the reason why the history API is such a useful foil for me in this discussion is because it is one of the most load-bearing functions that I've seen in the Python user ecosystem, where people are using it because they don't have what we have in the Rust APIs for one reason or another.
And by the way, this API is also one of those APIs that will greatly benefit from finally getting this caching layer in.
Oh, I was hoping you were gonna
because
say
it's a
kernel.
very
I was
it's probably
waiting for that kernel play.
kernel. No. But this is probably one of the most expensive APIs that we have, right? Because it disregards any checkpoint or anything, and essentially reads every file in its entirety. And actually, within commit timestamps on, you can do a little bit of trickery, right? And see how big it is. And if you have like a 15 megabyte commit, just read the first megabyte, because they tell you, right, the commit info needs to be the first action. But as it stands today, you're just reading the entire JSON log.
I mean, that's kind of what we do in Spark.
Up to the limit.
It's pretty nuts. Like, it's very slow in Spark as well, for kind of the same reason.
It's not an API that you should use lightly, kind of. But if we have the caching layer, that can significantly speed some of that up.
Steven, you would not believe the amazing things this caching PR is going to do, from what Robert has been telling me over the last few weeks. But a caching layer only speeds up your n+1 reads. So if your process only ever does one read and then exits, like in a Lambda, like in a small job, the caching layer is not gonna do magic. But if you have a long-lived process, it certainly will help.
Well, it's not gonna do magic, but in this specific case, when you created the Delta table, and to be honest, I don't know how we do it in the Python API, but I think we're quite eager on loading it. Also, you did the PNM, so if you go through the Delta table API, protocolor metadata, so you probably already did one scan to find the protocolor metadata, which you might have found early. Then you may have done another scan for us to eagerly materialize the log, and then you do like a third scan, which probably covers a bunch of the same JSON commits, plus all the ones that are kind of behind the checkpoint that you may or may not have had, and read all of this a third time. And at least with the caching layer, we would read every JSON file only once.
I absolutely agree. At the expense of our memory.
And it's exactly the way Spark does it. If you read a single data set and use it once in a materialization, then the cache actually hurts you more than helps you, because you load it all in the memory to just do a calculation to just drop it.
Figuring out the right balance is obviously going to be really tricky. There's no doubt about that. I think what we end up needing, obviously there needs to be cache control configuration. But we see, the runtime environment for Delta Rust, I actually think is much more interesting and challenging than what Delta Spark has, because you're kind of always in a big fat JVM in Delta Spark, and you're highly likely to be in a big fat JVM across multiple nodes, multiple discrete EC2 instances, right? With Delta Rust, we have people that are running it in a Jupyter notebook. We have people that are running it in Lambda. We have people that are running it in long-lived, like, daemons that are consuming, like a Kafka Delta ingest is a long-lived daemon. And so the runtime environments for Delta Rust are so different that anything like caching, I agree with Robert, absolutely useful. But we've got to always be putting lots of knobs for configuration on these things because the use cases are so varied across our ecosystem.
It's just like for Spark, it's not really communicated in the documentation or well anywhere that if you cache and then read once, like you don't get any benefit from it. So I'm not against like having it. I just maybe it's not a bad idea to learn where Spark went wrong in terms of its communication about what the API actually does and when you should use it. Is kind of just
now there's a fun session I would enjoy where Spark went wrong. Let's talk to Carly. Let's get that scheduled.
As someone who's used Spark before there was even a Python library or data frames, it's well, before there was even a SQL engine, you had RDDs and that was it in Scala,
Steven
no Java.
Really showing his age on the stream today.
I'm at least 100 years old. I'm an eternal vampire. But yeah, like, you know, to say where Spark went wrong, I guess, yeah, you could do more than a talk about that. You could probably do an entire speaker series about it. But it's not to say that, you know, it's not like its stronghold on the field is not by accident. Like, it's obviously done some things right.
I mean, it's not like everybody else did it better, right?
Well,
in many ways, Spark did the best thing.
Yeah, and it was the only thing at the time. Well, I mean, you also had things like Tez and Hema and you know, other Hadoop-based things. And so Spark just did it better than all of them. And adoption is, you know, being there first, but also being better than, you know, your competitors at the time. And Spark for a very long time has been there, obviously, but it's also been better. And, you know, the delta, no pun intended, between Spark as an engine and any subsequent engine that you would make is so great that, you know, like any engine that you would make that would begin to even come to approach the level of functionality that Spark has is, you know, a decade of engineering work, probably.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But the good thing for us is Rust is a beloved language by many data projects, and when it comes to the implementation of the cache, first of all, obviously, it needs to be 100% optional, right? So you need to decide if you can opt in or opt out, but should be either one of those. It's also the library I picked is a hybrid cache for exactly. And I think they did a great job. So you can put it all on disk or put it all on memory or somewhere in between, which I think makes this useful. It also makes it useful across sessions, right? So even if you read the same thing from your Jupyter notebook every day, whatever, you may actually still benefit from it. But yeah, so it's pretty configurable. But we need to surface a document this. By the way, which is why the first thing I did when starting to work on this is refactor our configuration system.
Again?
The PR is very, very old.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the PRs of yesteryears.
Yes. I mean, it never got integrated, so it's just the isolated kind of cached object store. Although right now it's probably easier. Nah, it's not easier. So if we just want to cache the delta log, but we have users who also want to cache the data files, right? If we just want to cache the delta log, then actually the easiest thing would be not to create a cached object store, but to create like a cached file system for kernel, because that already works on URLs. and assuming that you'll write your URL similarly every time. This would be so. This can be a global cache, is what I'm saying. And we sort of need the global cache anyway. Well, no, we don't. We could have a by-table cache if we just cache stuff from the log. But then again, people want also caching for data files. But I think we should keep those separate. Yeah, but we diverge a little bit into caching discussion. But I mean, to the initial point,
I'm excited to see what the results are.
yeah, me too. See if that works. But coming back to the initial discussion, yes, we should keep the history APIs, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea to think more about what other log inspection-like APIs can we offer people. But I also feel like this should be a separate thing, kind of from the.
I agree. I mean, keeping them sort of a little bit afield from Delta table reduces the likelihood that somebody is going to use it without appropriate caution.
Yeah.
I don't want to hide things from users. I just want them. I want them to be informed when they are using power tools that those power tools are dangerous.
Exactly. And yeah, there is stuff that can change, right? So for instance, we can't guarantee the schema of the log replay we do over time, right? There might be new features coming, there might be new actions coming, yada 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 yada. I don't see. Also, the add actions might get more fields over time, right? And this needs to be clear that this is something. We'll just give you whatever's there, but yeah, it's a bit of a looser contract, because I think with 1.0, also in Rust, we should hopefully eventually be at a point where we actually keep promises about our APIs.
Just make it 2.0. It's just
true.
Semantic
But
versioning
if-
to rescue.
you just take a page out of DataFusion's book and just go for it.
Every version's a major version.
Not every version. They've
Yeah.
slowed it down a little bit.
That's good.
We are approaching the end of our time. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. I've enjoyed my Delta Protocol ASMR session this morning. I think
Getting you good and sleepy for the day ahead of you.
I'm ready to take on what we got to take on. I think this is a really interesting discussion. I think the biggest challenges that are facing us right now. I mean, there's incorporating kernel and then making good API choices. Like those are sort of the two biggest challenges that we face in the Delta ecosystem. So I'm very grateful that y'all jumped on and had a good discussion with me this morning. I think I've got 2 pull requests fixed in my session today, or 2 pull requests ready to go. So I'm satisfied with my progress as well. So good job to me.
Awesome.
And then Robert, if you have some time, I think refactoring or revisiting some Florian's change around the Delta Sync stuff, I think is going to be useful. I wanted to get that down so that we could start to work on it, because I do think that there's some things that we can do there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this is just kind of stuff. I don't know how to communicate it.
yeah,
but,
so it's
or where.
Sometimes part of the reason why I wanted to merge it is because there are things that I also wanted to see, and it's kind of better to show rather than to tell.
But I mean, one easy rule is within any DataFusion should ideally only ever touch probably eager snapshot. Not Delta table state.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
No, nothing. Just eager snapshot.
Well, I look forward to your pull request. I hope to see it before the end of the day. The clock is ticking, Mr. Pack.
Yeah, true.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. Same time, same place next week.
Good to be here.
We'll see y'all later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right.